Welcome to today's webinar on unlocking sales potential, how Neudesic transformed their sales operations with ikaun. My name is Jason Noble. I am the co-founder of ikaun, and really our mission is to help professional services firms generate revenue using innovative technology solutions. With me, I have a great panel of folks. First is Mike Scariano, who is Chief Revenue Officer of Neudesic. A great advocate, amazing sales leader, and just someone that's really focused on the challenges of sales operations and revenue growth. In addition, I have Rikki Kopack, who is Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at Neudesic, another amazing individual that has just a talent for organizing very large teams and bringing very complex projects to fruition. So I want to turn it over to Mike to just give a brief introduction about himself, and then we'll turn it over to Rikki as well.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Mike Scariano. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Neudesic. I've been with the company for 16 and a half years. Started in our Phoenix market and then moved back to Chicago. 2.5 years ago, the company was purchased by IBM Consulting, and we've been in that journey for the last 2.5 years. It's been exciting for us. It's allowed us to grow and scale with the global system integrator community within Microsoft. And it's nice to be here today. So looking forward to sharing our lessons learned and the impact the solution has brought to the table for Neudesic.
Thanks, Mike. Rikki, you want to give a few minutes on yourself?
Sure. Like Mike said, very excited to share our experience with the ikaun platform with everyone on the webinar today. I've been with Neudesic almost 10 years. And in my time with the company, I've been in a variety of different operational roles and really kind of seen our need for something like the ikaun platform grow as we've evolved and matured over time. So yeah, just looking forward to sharing our story with you.
So again, based on the agenda, we just wanted to set the context of the problem. We'll talk about the solution, and the solution is not just a technology solution. It's people, process, and technology. And Rikki's really going to explain to us how she led the team that rolled the solution out, some of the ins and outs of how to realize this type of solution. We'll also talk about the results and the impacts of what were the actual outcomes of deploying this solution. And then integrated in that, we'll talk about lessons learned. We do want to have a questions and answers section at the end. So please, if you have questions, feel free to throw those in the chat, or you can leave those to the end. We will look at the chat to answer those questions. But to get started, one of the things I thought would be interesting would be maybe, Mike, if we could just talk a little bit about Neudesic, the firm, kind of what Neudesic does, what space they play in, maybe the size of the firm. I think it's important for the audience to know what the business of Neudesic is.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jason. So today, Neudesic is a $300 million technology consulting firm where we are 100% aligned to Microsoft and their stack of technologies. So we deliver solutions on behalf of the technologies that clients have purchased in the enterprise and small, medium corporate accounts. So we have a plethora of consultants. We're at about 2,000 people in our firm today, and we do staffing-based solutions. We do full-blown project-based solutions that are deliverable-based. And we started this journey back during the early days of COVID. The founding partners of the firm decided and made a commitment to the employees that we would not let anybody go during these tumultuous times. So, but we needed to act fast. We needed to adapt to our clients and some of the pain points they were going through as a part of being a part of the COVID pandemic. So we had to pivot a lot faster than we had in the past. So we needed a solution in the early stages of this journey that basically allowed us to get resumes of our consultants and their profiles electronically, quickly built so that we can propose those people to our clients and some of the challenges that they were facing. So in a perfect world, we would have this built and automated the right way. In the past, we did this manually. So we had to get with the consultants, sit down with them, understand what they did in their last project, their last set of projects. And that took time, and we didn't have the luxury of time. So we wanted to keep our business going the right direction. So we embraced this journey with ikaun and automated that process so that when consultants hit the bench, they were ready to go with their projects that are updated, so that we can explain to clients the skills that they brought to bear to help them get through whatever pain points they were going through. So that's how this whole thing started, and it's just extended itself from that point in time. So it really was a catalyst for us maintaining our business and growing then through the end of the pandemic era.
And what about maybe explain, just because Neudesic is a pretty complex organization, many different service lines, many different technology sets that you're supporting your clients with. When looking at the individual consultants, I know there's a lot of skill-based information that you collect, but are there other aspects of the people that really differentiates and determines how and who you submit to your particular clients?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about a pure play Microsoft consulting firm, the assets are our people, and the intellectual property in the form of an accelerator or an asset that we create to get a client on a Microsoft stack of technologies faster. So when we look at bios or CVs of our consultants, we look at their technical background, the skills that they've learned, whether it's modern workplace solutions, whether it's application innovation, whether it's data and analytics. And it's very important to distinguish what they can do within that discipline. And then we take their technical skills and we translate that into their soft skills in terms of how they interact with customers. So we have business transformation services that understand technology, but they really look at the business path to a solution, and they try to be as agnostic as they can in terms of what the solution can look like. So this platform allowed us to create and collect the technical aptitude of our consultants, the soft skills, and we went as far as going into the industry domain expertise, which is what we're transforming to be today. So we have verticalized our business. IBM Consulting is very verticalized. And, we focus on utilities and energy. We focus on retail CPG. We focus on financial services and insurance and manufacturing. So now we've allowed this platform to pivot on a consultant that knows modern workplace with Microsoft technologies, but in retail and CPG. And that has really allowed us to pivot even faster as we continue to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up some interesting points there. One was that people, obviously the core, the heart of the business and the value that you provide to your clients, but you also talked about accelerators, right? And how there's a combination sometimes when you're presenting your capabilities of positioning both the individual skills, but then also the assets, whether those are technical or process based, that you bring to the client. So do you think that having those, as you mentioned, accelerators are a pretty significant factor?
Yeah, I think the way we've gone to market with Microsoft in particular is Microsoft cares about Azure consumed revenue. So how people are embracing the cloud. And we look at building accelerators that are common across verticals or just horizontal in business and common pain points that we're solving. So we take these accelerators or frameworks, and we don't charge our clients for them. We basically give them as a catalyst to grow the client to a solution point, but it also helps Microsoft see that Azure consumption happen faster. So by leveraging ikaun, we were able to identify which consultants in the organization. When you start getting into the thousands, it's tough to delineate between what consultants and which consultants know how to leverage those IP co-sell accelerators that will bring solutions faster to the market. So this platform allowed us to identify those consultants that know. We probably have 30 plus accelerators in the Azure marketplace and within our own environment. So that was a really big boost to our growth.
Yeah, so not only mapping, whether it's Azure, OpenAI, or specific technical skills, but then also being able to say, well, who at Neudesic knows this particular Neudesic accelerator, right?
Yeah, and how many times they've implemented it and what
Hmm.
specific use case, what industry, domain expertise, all those things come into the platform. So now you can really easily filter on those really niche skill sets so that, and in some cases we can proactively go after clients that we're engaged in to say, hey, this particular set of consultants really understands this domain and this specific use case. Would you like to talk to them and understand how they've done this in the past? So it allows us to be really proactive in our sales approach to
Yeah,
our
making sure you have like the right
engagements.
person in the room, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So, just one more question. I just wanted to ask you about the sales process. Like, is there a typical sales process that you go through? Maybe just what is the process that you all go through?
Yeah, so we look at new client acquisition as a really a KPI or key performance indicator for us. Because once we engage with a client, whether it's a proof of concept, something small to start, we don't expect any engagement to be large to start with. We want to prove ourselves. Once we do that, the longevity of that relationship nurtures itself, and we become that trusted partner advisor to the customer, and we usually see a really long cycle of engagement over the course of years. So, and then once we get into a client engagement, we look at the expanding or expansion of a client in terms of offering them different workloads that will help benefit their business. So, I'd say our sales cycle is anywhere from 3 to 6 months in terms of, starting with a small proof of concept, proving ourselves, and then getting to a larger set of engagements or engagement that starts to extend and transform the business of our clients. So, it's something that we try to shrink up as best we can. It's very difficult in some cases, especially in
Mhm.
today's economic situation. Our sales cycles are getting longer. Clients are doing much more due diligence,
Yeah.
and Icon allows us to try to shrink that up a little bit and
Mhm.
make it faster. So it gives us a little bit of a competitive advantage, to say the least. So.
Good. Well, good. So that was kind of setting the problem, some of the typical issues that you're facing, talking about the time-consuming process of understanding who's available and then generating their resume for potential submission. What I want to do next is really talk about the solution implementation. And so this is really where Rikki came in, and under her leadership, guided Neudesic through the process of implementing the solution. Again, we were faced with disconnected data sets, Word documents floating out in various sites, never knowing if the resumes are up to date. So with the solution implementation, I really wanted to ask Rikki about not just the technology, but the process that you took Neudesic through to realize the actual implementation. So, Rikki, do you want to just provide some comments on maybe the team structure, building consensus, those types of things?
Sure, sure. I think, as you mentioned, it was really important for us to get alignment in the organization from all of the different roles that we're going to intersect with this tool, and all the people that had experienced kind of the challenge that Mike mentioned, which is, how do I get an updated resume in a timely manner so that I can get it in front of a client, and have them understand the quality of our consultants. And so really what we did was we decided to form a steering committee. We took people from, Neudesic is organized regionally. We took people that represented each role that would interact with the resume process or with this platform from each region. We had somebody sort of stand in to represent that role or that interaction with the platform. Once we had that steering committee formed, we shared with them what the expectation was going to be of their interaction throughout this process, kind of how much time they would need to commit, what meetings they would need to attend, that sort of thing. And then we went through a process of gathering requirements from all of those folks. So really sitting them down and trying to understand where were their particular pain points from their role, what had they been challenged with, what had they seen, what would they really like for this platform to be able to help us do. And we translated all of that into a set of requirements, which we then shared with the ikaun team. And as we kind of customize our implementation of this platform, we were able to integrate a lot of those requirements from all over our organization. Ultimately, those requirements ended up, being built into the tool. And then we did a series of pilots after that, where we actually launched what we had at that time to a smaller group of consultants and asked them to go ahead and create their profile. We asked people that had been part of our steering committee to test various aspects of what we had implemented. And we continued to find some areas where we could just refine and really optimize that experience for them. Ultimately, we ended up in a place where we went through user acceptance testing. Everyone was pretty happy with what we had, prepared for release. And at that time, we went ahead and shared it with the organization.
So then, just so I'm clear, so the way that Neudesic is structured is you have regional, I don't want to call them people managers, but resource managers that are in each individual market or region. Is that how you all are structured?
Yes, to some degree. So there's not only people managers, right? There's technology leadership that would interact potentially with this platform and helping to guide our consultants to build and refine their skills. We have people in our operations roles that would interact with the tool, that would be looking for a resume to fill a role for a project from a workforce management standpoint. We have consultants themselves that are going to want to market themselves and really showcase what they're capable of. So we really had representatives from all of those various roles, not just from a management perspective, but from a workforce management perspective and the consultants themselves.
Yeah. And I know, Mike, you have a sales operations function within Neudesic, right? So there's a team that helps that supports the sales organization to respond to RFPs and proposals and things like that. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so think of sales operations at Neudesic as the tip of the spear in terms of helping and guiding our sales force that's in the markets across the U.S. We have 12 cities right now that we're in, and they work then in conjunction with field operations, which is the group that does the forecasting of people going on to projects. They handle all the staffing needs. So there's a lot of constituents within Neudesic that use this platform. And then the salespeople, also at the tip of the spear, if you will, that work with the customers directly, really focus on trying to match the right people with the right project and requirements.
Yeah, and one of the aspects, Rikki, that I know we had talked about during the implementation was engagement of the technical leadership, because within Mike was mentioning how technical skills and proficiency in those skills is really important. And can you maybe spend a couple minutes just talking about specifically that skills section? And
Sure.
creating that taxonomy of skills. What was the process that you went through to come up with a set of skills that people could self-declare?
Sure. So luckily, we had actually been in a process internally already to kind of go to our technical leadership again in each of those regions. Sometimes the skill sets by region are slightly different, right? Clients in a particular area, a particular vertical, as Mike mentioned earlier, may have a certain set of needs. And so our goal was really starting to create a consolidated list or taxonomy of those skills, which we had started doing, but we were doing that in spreadsheets and trying to keep track of people's skills with, notations in an Excel spreadsheet, which just wasn't really scalable as we started to really mature. And, like Mike mentioned, we were going through that whole process during COVID. So we really needed some urgency around those skills being available and being able to see that very clearly on every consultant's profile. So what we did was we took that same list that had been provided by all of our technical leaders across the organization, consolidated that into one list. We've organized our list based on the role of the consultant, so they can quickly go in, say, hey, based on my role, what skills should I have? Or what skills are available to me to add to my profile? And we used a pretty typical star rating so that they could say, I'm early in understanding this particular skill. or I'm an expert and I could lead a team with this particular skill set and everything in between. So it really gave us the opportunity to understand very quickly which consultants were going to be correct for a certain role on a project based on that skill set.
Got it. Yeah, I think that this is one of the struggles that I've seen other firms go through, which is how do we organize our skill sets, right? Oftentimes it's based on being that you're closely aligned with Microsoft. Oftentimes we're tempted to align our groupings to the technology sets that Microsoft is providing, whether it's Azure, and then within Azure, maybe it's App Service, maybe it's OpenAI. But it sounds like you took a more, I guess, role or practice-based approach.
We did. We figured that, we were going to be asking our consultants to update their profiles and kind of keep them up to date with information they needed to provide. And one of the easiest ways for us to do that was ensure that we really created the experience of updating a profile from their perspective. How are they going to be able to quickly and easily go in, find the skills that were relevant to them, and then add them to their profile? And so that's the path that we chose. The other thing that I think is probably important to mention on the skill front is, we're in a technology business, so skills are changing constantly. The technology is changing constantly. And I think one of the important things that we agreed on as a team was that we were going to go in and really look at that skill taxonomy and decide if there was anything that should be added, new skills, new technologies that we really wanted our consultants to be learning, or maybe something that was a little dated that we wanted to remove from the taxonomy so that people didn't continue to add that to their profile. So we agreed that twice a year, we were going to go in with our technology leadership, review that list and refine it as needed.
Got it. So there's like a technology leader or a group of technology leaders that are kind of
Correct.
own a section of the taxonomy, so to speak.
Yes. Anything that, like Mike mentioned, if we're looking at app innovation, maybe there's particular skills there. If we're looking at data, there's particular skills there. So our leadership in each of those areas is really helping us refine that list twice a year.
Got it. Okay. Well, good. So again, it sounds like you built the team, you made sure that you had the team was a set of constituents that are actually going to use the solution. You made sure that you had kind of diversity in both region and I guess scope with the right team in place. You collected their requirements, you categorized those requirements. And I believe from what I remember, we kind of weighted those requirements as must-haves and nice to haves and things like that. The final thing I just want to drill just a little bit into on the proof of concept, and also I think there's kind of a going in fear that, hey, we're going to ask each consultant to go and fill out their profile. So can you just maybe share some insights into what your approach was to adoption at the consultant level, and maybe what experience did they have in going into the platform and actually completing their profile?
Sure. So I think having a pilot group out of the gate was really helpful to us because we had chosen consultants from each of the regions to participate in that pilot. And so having them get a walkthrough on how to go ahead and approach filling out their profile. There is also, and I think we'll talk about this as we talk a little bit more about the solution, but we had the opportunity to tie the solution to several of our internal systems, which automated the presentation of a lot of information in the consultant's profile. So we made it as easy as possible for them to go in and have to just fill in the information that only they would know or that we couldn't pull from a system at that time. And then having that pilot, they went in, they kind of got to see how easy it was. And having had that experience, when we rolled it out then to all of our regions in a more broad way, we had people that were sort of there and able to advocate for how easy it was, how helpful it was, and they were able to kind of help others if they had questions within the region, which definitely helped adoption and helped drive, I think, people's understanding that this was really a benefit, not only to the business, but to the consultants themselves to be able to share their skills and kind of market themselves within the organization.
I think, Jason, too, it created a healthy, competitive kind of spirit within the organization because people were getting their bios updated and they were impressive. I mean, we provided them all the skills that you could possibly imagine. to add to their bio, we also have validation and confirmation on, are those skills accurate that the consultants portrayed in their bio? So there's a check and balance too. But as resumes got built, there was a lot of pride that came from that, and it created a competitive kind of good competition within the organization. So it's kind of naturally happened. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, when you see a colleague or whatever, they have all their skills out there and they're saying that they're they're an expert or a thought leader on a particular technology, people just naturally like, well, I'm actually the thought leader, right? And they want to go out and prove to the world that they are in that same category.
I think the one other thing that really helped us with adoption was, the fact that the resume output from the platform is so consistent. We set a template, comes out the same way every time. If they keep up on maintaining their profile, we don't have this fire drill that happens, right? Where somebody all of a sudden is going to them and saying, hey, I don't know what you're in the middle of doing, but I need you to update your resume right now. And we all know that updating documents is really difficult. We get different fonts, we get different formatting. It just ends up being kind of a back and forth exercise. This really streamlines the outcome for everybody involved. And so I think the consultants really appreciate the ease of use from that standpoint.
Yeah. So let's jump into kind of the results. And I know for the audience, apologize for the lack of visuals, but we're going to jump into it now because I know that sometimes it's just easier to see something like what is it that we're talking about. And so Rikki, I think with this first screen, and again, this is using our demonstration environment. We're not sharing any of Neudesic's information. So this isn't exactly what Neudesic's implementation was. But Rikki, do you want to maybe just talk about just the concepts of the profile that you all had configured within your platform?
Sure. So, part of our process, as we were talking about earlier, I think one of the things that we did early on was identify what did we want to be a part of the profile within the platform, and which elements of that profile did we then want to show up in a resume export. And we wanted to be really clear in marking those within our platform. And so, things that show up like the consultant's picture, their name, their role level, their title, those kinds of things. Some of that does translate over into the resume itself when it exports out of the system. But a lot of those things also automatically come from our AD, our internal systems. And so the consultant automatically has a profile created for them the moment they join our organization. And it just keeps them from having to fill out a lot of those kinds of basic, information when they're filling in their profile. But we added a lot of other cool things like the biography here that essentially does translate to the professional biography that shows up on their resume export. They're able to go in and add skills and project experience and a number of other things that really kind of showcase who they are and what their experience and expertise is, so that we can not only match them to the right project, but for our sales teams, those kinds of things, they have a profile again that they can grab really quickly. It's consistent in format, and then they can use that as they need to.
Yeah. And you brought up an important point there, which is that we did integrate with your internal time and billing system and project definition system to pull in their projects automatically, right? So if they build to a project, it automatically showed up on their profile, right?
Correct. Yes. So we automatically pull the dates, the client, the industry, as Mike mentioned earlier. A lot of those things that are stored in our systems, we're able to pull through. So really what the consultant, again, is filling in is, their unique contribution to that project and maybe a solution summary of what we delivered in that project. And even in those areas, I think, it's available in our biography and some of the other areas where AI is sort of built into the tool, right? And so our consultants who may not be natural writers, they're gifted in many other ways, but it helps them sort of create a maybe more verbose biography, or maybe it just cleans it up a little bit from a spelling and grammar standpoint. But the tooling there is really helpful.
Yeah, and we have we'll dig a little bit into the specifics of the projects here in a second, but for the skills themselves, so what you all are seeing here is, again, an expertise section. This is in our demonstration environment. It's all about a traditional consulting organization, tax, audit, consulting, et cetera. But Rikki, maybe talk a little bit about the expertise section.
Sure. So, again, that list is something that we've curated with our technical leadership. It was easy for us to customize that into the ikaun platform. Our consultants are able to go in, they can search for a particular skill or go through the list. And then they have that star rating capability on the right-hand side, right? So we provide them guidance with, what does a 1-star mean? What does a 5-star mean? They're able to go in and rate themselves for those skills. In our version of the platform, they're even able to mark what they consider a top skill on their profile. So something that they would almost want to pin to their profile, something they're very well known for, they really enjoy doing. And that allows that to show up in their resume as kind of a highlight in the skills list that they may export. So yeah, it's a very robust tool that's really helpful for us.
Yeah, and this is where earlier we were talking a lot about that taxonomy, and in this example that you're seeing, it's based on kind of like the practices, right? Audit and assurance, consulting, financial advisory, tax, and again, the way that you organized it was much more based on the role the person was in, right? So they could come in and they could very easily check the skills that they should have, or that are relevant to that particular role type. Am I getting that correct?
Yes. So it kind of serves, two purposes, I think. One is obviously from a searching perspective, this is kind of the crux of what makes this tool so beneficial for us. Is in a lot of ways, our efficiency comes from being able to go and search for particular consultants with particular skills. Before using this platform, it was something that was kind of in the mental memory of the folks that were doing our staffing process, or, as Mike mentioned, our sales ops team, somebody that we knew that had done a particular kind of project or engaged in a certain kind of technology. And that obviously is not very efficient. So the rating and kind of having a repository of all these skills is a huge benefit. The other thing is, from a consultant standpoint, if I go in and I'm a delivery manager, for example, or a project manager, I can go to the platform and I can say, okay, let me look at the skills that are relevant to my role. And not only which skills do I have and do I really excel at, but maybe which skills does the business feel are associated to my role that I could add to my profile in the future if I wanted to grow some new skills.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you mentioned there was the old process, which was it was kind of in people's head. And because you're kind of experiencing this massive growth, it's very challenging for those individuals to really understand that, hey, maybe a person that I don't even know about is highly skilled in a particular skill area, and I really didn't even know about that. So kind of the expectation that each one of those individuals would not only be able to hold all that information in their brain for the consultants they know about, but what about the consultants that are new? Like, how do we ensure that they're being given opportunities to be placed on projects, and that we're staffing this accordingly?
For sure, for sure. I think one of the areas in our profile too, we didn't put it into our expertise section. The expertise section is really for something that you would rate yourself at least a 1 in terms of your skill set. But we did add a section in our profiles that's called developing skills that gives our consultants the opportunity to even say, hey, here's something that I'm working on or that I'd like to learn. And so if we were searching for something like that, we might choose to put that consultant onto a project where they're able to gain a skill set that they're starting to be interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important. Interested in, or I want to develop skills in this particular area. I think that's important at a leadership perspective to know, okay, if this is the direction they want their career to go, maybe we have a junior role for them on a particular project so that they're able to skill up on that and then, eventually become an expert in that new evolving technology space.
For sure.
So let's talk a little bit about projects. So as you mentioned, we integrated with your time and billing system, and we pull in all the projects that a person has worked on, that they build time on. But you want to maybe explain just a little bit about what's happening with the project implement, or the project input, because this is really what the primary ask of the consultant is, right? Tell us the work that you've done specifically on a project.
Correct. Yes. So, we pull a lot of the data, right? The dates that they were on the project or billed to the project title, the client name, the vertical, all of that comes from our systems currently. The thing we ask the consultants to fill in is the solution summary. What did we deliver for the client, and the work performed, which is, what did they contribute? What specifically did they do on the project? How did they help with the solution delivery? And I think the screenshot here is also showing, this concept of using the technology to write for them. So, if they have a sentence in there, they maybe don't know exactly what to say, or they don't know how to elaborate on that. Having that built in there to be able to use that tooling to then make the work performed section or that solution summary a little bit more robust, a little bit more clear. That's a huge benefit to the consultants and to the business to get something really meaningful out in that resume that we're going to export.
Yeah. And under the covers, kind of the technology that is at play there is this is very much a generative AI based solution. But what we do is we look at the time entries for that individual on that project. In addition, we look at other descriptions that other consultants have put for that specific role on that specific client. And we again, we look through all the time entries that they've input, like, hey, I worked on a solution document, I wrote code to do X, and we create a summarization of all of that work using Gen AI based on all the data that we've collected. And we're strong believers in leveraging this technology as a great first draft. You always want to have a human come in and review it and make sure that it's truthful. But the other nice thing about this is that when they use the Write for Me, it can apply consistency rules. So like the narrative feels the same from one resume to the next, right? So there's a consistency aspect that the Write for Me technology applies as well.
Yes, which is a huge win, because obviously we may have several different people on a project, and we want the explanation of that project to look consistent across those resumes.
Yeah. Okay, so then moving into kind of, finding people. So we talked about the individual, but let's talk about the workflow where you want to work with multiple potential resumes.
Sure. So I think this is really where the benefit comes in. If you're, in a sales ops role, a field ops role, for us, really finding the right person for a role and then being able to display that person's profile or get that in the hands of the right person, whether that may be a salesperson, it could be somebody staffing, from a workforce management or projects. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's a series of filters that allow for searching about certain elements around a consultant. It could be, their title. It could be for us, the region that they're located in, if that's relevant to the client. It could be their role level, what level consultant are they, those kinds of things. We can also search by skills. So what skills do they have? What skill rating are the skills, that they have on their profile? If we're looking for somebody that's only a 4-star or above in a particular skill set, we're able to do that in the search features. And then similarly, we are able to look for elements of projects that they've participated in. So, to Mike's point earlier, if we really need to find somebody that has experience in, financial services or something like that, we're able to use those industry filters to search for our consultants that meet that criteria. What shows up on that right-hand side of the screen are all the consultants that match the filters that we've set on the left-hand side. So we're able to basically go in and see, do we have 20 people that are a fit for what we're searching for, or do we have, 50 people? And then we can start to really look at those profiles and further refine if we want to. And that is a huge win in terms of, cutting down on our time to staff a project or time to put consultant profiles together that we can submit for an RFP, those kinds of things, because we're able to find the right folks to hit those filters.
Yeah, and the kind of you found this potential folks, but one of the capabilities within the platform is to what we do. We call it adding them to a briefcase. It's kind of like a shopping cart, but this is an example of that briefcase. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So this is a great way, again, to consolidate, a number of profiles that we found that we think are a good fit. The cool thing in the briefcase is that we can even edit a consultant's profile so that what appears for a client or what appears in their resume output for an RFP are specific things that we think are relevant. So, as we're showing here on screen, we can go into this particular consultant's profile. We could select certain projects that we want to appear in the resume. We could reorder the projects. If one project is more important than maybe some of the others, we can have it show up in whatever order we want in that resume export. And then ultimately, once we've customized to the degree that we feel is necessary, we can go ahead and export that entire briefcase and get one consolidated document that comes out in a very templated, consistent format, which is, again, just a huge time saver for us. And so, yeah, I think the briefcase feature is amazing. In the briefcase feature, there's also the feature of being able to create folders and share, which is something we can do internally as well. And that allows us, if we don't necessarily need the resume export, but we just need to share it among our teams, it gives us a way to say, hey, I've consolidated down to these 5 people. I think these consultants are a great fit. Let me share their profiles with you. And so that cuts down a lot of back and forth in email and other things inside the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to add a little bit to this concept, so let's just assume that you had all of your resumes in a magical folder somewhere. What this is doing is this is allowing you to create a customized version of someone's resume without actually physically creating in a Word document, right? Because if you wanted to do this using the old process, you'd literally have to open up their resume, cut out some projects or change some descriptions. But because it's all in this structured environment, you're able to pick and choose those specific projects that you want to highlight, and you're never inside of Word actually kind of, manipulating Word documents. You're just working with the data that we know about these individuals.
And the great thing for the consultants is they can save these different versions of their own profile. So if they have, 2 particular skill sets or 2 areas that they really have a lot of expertise and they want to create 2 versions of their profile, they're able to do that and save it this way, where again, they don't have to go to a Word document and be updating 2 different Word documents in the case that they have 2 profiles that they really like to present. So yeah, definitely a huge one.
Yeah, and getting back to Mike's original, kind of shifting into these industry focuses, here in this case, if Richard had a expertise in media and entertainment or what have you, he's able to actually go in and pick and choose the projects that he wants to highlight when being submitted for a media and entertainment type project, right? So again, it's beneficial both for Neudesic, but then also for the clients that are reading these CVs, because they're seeing experience that's highly relevant to the industry that they're in for each of the individuals.
For sure.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about, so we talked about profiles and all that, but also the reporting aspect. And again, this is the report within our demo environment. Your dashboard, so to speak, was much more sophisticated. But do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the data aspect, kind of what you're able to see from a top level down?
Sure. So, these insights I think are huge for us, where we developed our dashboard in 2 categories. One really had to do with skill distribution, and the other had to do with profile completion, because those were 2 key metrics that we really wanted to look at. And so, we're able to see a number of things like which profiles are fully filled out, which profiles maybe need some updates. It allows us to kind of manage and track that process. The other thing that is a little bit more similar to what we're seeing on screen here is just a distribution of the skills that we have in our organization. So, using a lot of the same filters that are available on that main search page, you can see the filters in the upper left of this screenshot here. And so we're able to go in and say, hey, in a particular region, what does the skill distribution look like? What are our top skills in that particular region? If we had a new technology that we had introduced and really needed to develop some strong expertise in, we could start to see how that skill is growing inside the organization, how our consultants are adopting it, where we maybe need to, encourage some more learning in particular areas. So this is really useful for managers of consultants. It's useful for, general managers or kind of regional talent managers to see a consolidated view of what's going on in that region from a skill standpoint.
There's also a lot of ancillary benefits we get from these dashboards with our partnerships, like Microsoft, like
Sure.
Databricks. And we have a lot of certifications that we have to prove and showcase to those technology hyperscalers. And this helps us in that regard too. So there's not just internal, but externally facing too.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect. So being able to, going through that whole certification partner process, like usually
Yeah.
there's a certain number of people that you need to prove have certain competencies. So leveraging this platform to be able to report and give back information, not only to your clients, but also to your partners.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process throughout the course of a given calendar fiscal year. So there's a lot that goes into it to maintain our high level status with Microsoft and at Databricks. So this helps tremendously.
All right, so let's kind of wrap up with a few lessons learned. So I guess Rikki, from your perspective in implementing and rolling this type of a solution out, are there some lessons learned, in retrospect, looking back on the implementation, whether it's things that you may have done differently, or kind of what are some of the lessons that you learned in rolling out the platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, benefit we had was forming that steering committee up front and really gathering the right group of people to get requirements from and having a pilot with our team. I think having the opportunity to really adapt over time has been beneficial to us. I think one of the biggest learnings I probably have is because we are regionally organized, I think I would have rolled out the platform region by region so we could really focus on the one region, getting everybody fully up to speed and adopted, and then really using that region as internal marketing and kind of promotion for the platform and how helpful it is. We rolled out all at one time, which just distributed kind of the focus and the effort a little bit. So that's
Okay, so
that's the
you might
one
have
learning.
focused on like the Northeast region or some
Correct.
geographic location and really get it
Sure.
fully implemented there, as opposed to this kind of widespread.
Yes, I would have staged our release, I think, across our regions.
Got it. And then in terms of collecting feedback and training, like was there a training program, or was it just, hey, go to this page and fill things out? Was it pretty self-explanatory, or what did that look like?
There was training. So we did a training by region where we got a group of people together that were going to be managers or those talent managers, the operations folks in each region. And we did a training session for each of those groups, sharing with them how they might interact with the system, what they could expect. And we allowed them to sort of go into the region and then share that knowledge to train others within the region. So that worked really well. It was good to get everybody in front of the platform and sort of able to see how it works and how to interact with it. We also produced a user guide, which we store anytime somebody onboards. We're able to provide them with that user guide. So that has pretty detailed screenshots and an understanding of what each section of the tool is and how it's used, all of those kinds of things. So that was really helpful for us. And then we have ongoing sessions where we talk about, refinements we might want to make with our implementation, new features we would want to add, those kinds of things. And so we have a regular recurring cadence where we talk about all of that. And, those things find a way to find their way into the tool, which continues to make it relevant and really useful to our team.
Well, good. So we're getting close to the end here. I just wanted to close out with some conclusions and some next steps. And then also, if there are any questions, happy to answer those. But I think some of the things that we had talked about in this presentation was just the the importance of building the team, right? And ensuring that you have a good cross section of the different types of people that will actually be using the solution. You have those that are using it to find people and to select resumes and to customize those resumes. But then you also have it from the individual consultant's perspective, ensuring that we understand their needs and their workflows and how they kind of describe their work. So again, getting that team built that is representative of all of the constituents that will use and benefit from the solution. Also, Rikki, you talked a lot about executing a pilot, and I think one of the things that I heard was that the purpose of the pilots is to learn, right? It's to validate all of the assumptions that we make in this kind of planning stage. So we assume people's workflows, and yeah, they're educated guesses, but until you actually get someone out using it and providing feedback, you never really know how well the solution fits. And I think from what I remember, I thought we got some pretty good feedback from the consultants as it related to like filling out their profile. And I think it might have been like the top skills concept,
Mhm.
which was basically we rolled it out and then people were saying, hey, I really need to be able to pin certain skills so that those show up on my resume. And it's not really something that we would have thought of as a team had we not elicited that feedback from the pilot group, right?
Yes, for sure. I think having them actually interact with the system gave us some of those great ideas, like the top skills, and also just continued to build consensus and
Mm.
willingness for adoption because they did experience something that was so much easier than what they were doing before in terms of updating their resume. So I think it was a great opportunity overall.
Absolutely. And then the last conclusion is that automation with AI makes a huge impact. One of the aspects of, or the asks, I guess, for the consultants was for them to come in and basically complete their resume. But to Ricky's point, we had pulled in the vast majority of that information from various systems. So it wasn't someone coming and landing on a blank profile and then clicking add project and them having to add all of this information. All of that was already listed for them. And then we went a step further and said, well, the one aspect that we're actually asking the consultant to write content for is in that work performed section. So that's where we were able to leverage artificial intelligence, look at their time entries, and help them craft. So again, I think maybe the way to look at this is, imagine writing your resume from the start, from a blank page, without having a list of all the work that you've ever done in the past, and just imagining the difference between filling out a blank document and just basically filling in some blanks that prompt you in terms of the experience that you've done. That's really just the massive efficiency that can be gained by integrating with data systems, back-end systems, but then also layering on top artificial intelligence to help them craft the descriptions in the places that they need to. So I think that the automation, the data integration, and the artificial intelligence aspects, and how we chose to layer in generative AI on top of it was purpose built. It was built into the workflow, and it's not just a chat screen where you ask a generic question of what is my experience. No, it's actually integrated into that screen where you're asked to provide that content. So I think that that's the strategy moving forward. It's a very important strategy that you integrate artificial intelligence and not just provide yet another chatbot. On your screen, you see this beautiful QR code. If you're interested in learning more, if you want a demonstration, if you're interested in doing what we call a proof of value, where we leverage your data and we show you what the platform can do, please reach out. Go ahead and scan the QR code and fill out the contact us form, and we'll reach out to you immediately. With that, again, I want to really thank both Mike and Rikki for participating today. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you all, and really appreciate you sharing your your thought leadership on really how to transform sales operations, leveraging technology. So once again, thank you very much for joining today.